Hello, and welcome to The Staffing Show, the only podcast that delivers tools, tips, and tactics from the staffing and recruiting industry's top executives and thought leaders.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Staffing Referrals. At Staffing Referrals, we understand the challenges your agency faces every day. From finding high-quality candidates and clients to automating your recruitment process, our platform is designed to help you grow your agency faster. Imagine a world where your agency can automatically build your talent community, improve your recruiters' productivity, and automate manual processes, all the while improving the candidate experience. But don't just take our word for it. Here's what a few satisfied customers have to say. Our referral program boomed after partnering with Staffing Referrals. The technology allows us the tracking, communication, and reporting our traditional referral program desperately needed to unify and expand. Can't imagine our business without it. Are you ready to transform your staffing agency? Let's reduce your dependency on job boards, deliver the experience your candidates expect from a modern business, and turn your talent pool into a competitive advantage. Visit staffingreferrals.com and get ready to grow.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Staffing Show. Today, I am super excited to be joined by Adam Chambers, who is the president and founder of Nurse Recruitment Experts, and also the host of one of the most popular healthcare staffing podcasts, Nurse Recruitment Secrets. Adam, super excited to have you on the show today and hear your story and a little bit about what you're doing. Thanks so much for joining.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. I'm really excited to share it with you and your listeners. And I love your plants, by the way. I need to show you mine after.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate it. So to kick things off, would love to know how you got into the staffing industry, a little bit about your background, and then we can jump into some nurse recruiting marketing secrets and a few other key topics.
Okay, so I'm from a family of nurses. My aunt worked in the UK's oldest hospital. It's called St. Bart's, and it was founded in the 12th century. And my cousin worked in the UK's biggest children's hospital, which is called Great Ormond Street. And growing up, I heard stories from them about being nurses. I didn't really appreciate what a nurse really did and how the job looked like until I was in my teenage years. And the same themes kept coming up from them, that things were getting hard in terms of staffing. They were feeling more burnt out, and life was just getting more difficult as a nurse. So I graduated from university in 2018. I studied history, which is probably why I mentioned history and a lot of things, but I had always been really interested in marketing, on the other hand, just communication, ideas. During school, I kind of traded faux stocks. They were like virtual trading cards in a soccer game. And whenever I left, I was kind of filled with the desire to start my own business. And that issue, which my family members had mentioned to me, it kept ringing in my head and they kept talking about it. We kind of started out by falling into teacher recruitment, based on a bit of previous experience I had. But again, that was ringing in my head, like nurses are facing a crisis. We need help. We need your skills. That's what they were saying to me. So around 2019, started a company called Applichat Healthcare. We rebranded it as Nurse Recruitment Experts a couple of years ago, really to help my family members and every nurse across the world find jobs easier, apply to jobs easier, and really raise the standards that hospitals and other healthcare providers have when it comes to recruiting, staffing, and retention, so that we can chip away, even if it's just a little bit, the nursing shortage and the nursing burnout crisis. So that's how we got into it. COVID happened about a year after, and we could talk more about how that changed things, but it was quite dramatic.
That's awesome. No, and I know one of the things you and I talked about previously is that your approach to growing Nurse Recruitment Experts has been a bit different than some. There's a lot of agencies out there that are PE-backed and a lot that are kind of on the, we're going to try to grow as fast as we possibly can. And you mentioned early on when we were talking that you've been purposely building kind of a lifestyle brand. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the decisions behind that, what that means to you?
Yeah. So I've been really influenced by mentors throughout my career. My first job was an internship with an entrepreneur based in Bristol who had a horse recruitment marketing company, like for the equine industry.
That's the first I've heard that. That's
All right. It wasn't just the recruitment, actually, it was event marketing too. But that first boss was like, I love horses and I love marketing, not as much, but a little bit. In terms of careers, like I'm not going to be a horse rider, unfortunately. I'm going to use my skill in marketing to be in the area that I love. And, she went to horse shows, she owned her own horse, and she was able to mingle and mix with clients in field that was really her hobby. Ever since I worked with her, I've always been kind of drawn to mentors that prioritized lifestyle. So one, he's called Mike Eames. He's based in the UK. And he sold a couple of recruitment companies, and now he's a coach. And he always said to me that around like 3 to 5% of recruitment companies in the UK, at least, ever end in a sale, or it's called a liquidity event, where the founder walks off into the sunset. And he said to me that if you're young, if you don't have a lot of familiar wealth or personal wealth behind you, and if you want to have fun with your business while you're in your 20s, then you don't have to be throwing all of the profits back into the business, working 60 hours a week, and just dying for this business in order to be successful with it. And that really stuck with me. I still do work 60 hours a week sometimes. Sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's 20. And since we started, really, I've always kept that in mind, that for me and for our team, this business should really enable and improve our life outside of the business, as well as being fun and successful within the business. And I acknowledge that that's not going to make me a billionaire with this business, but it does have the potential for me to travel, enjoy life while I'm young, and create myself a nest egg that I can fall back on if I do choose to create something that is more investment and capital heavy. So that's my philosophy. Obviously, it won't work for everyone, but I think most recruitment owners don't really have an end goal in mind. They're like, eventually I might sell it, or eventually I'll just keep going. And my message, I suppose, would be like, there doesn't have to be an end goal where it's like the period, the full stop. You can achieve the things in your personal life that you want to achieve while you're still running the business. Just have to make a few compromises on either way, but compromise isn't as big as losing time with your loved ones or having some regrets. So that's my philosophy.
Love it. And how has that changed your approach? Like, what is your? I know you're in Mexico right now. But how has that changed your approach to running your business and where you've lived and the lifestyle elements of it?
Yeah, so there's probably three ones. There's in terms of the strategy, the operations, and then personal life. So as I mentioned, strategy is let's aim for a 60% gross profit margin, and then 40% net profit, of which I can choose to invest that into the business again, which is what I've been doing with most of it recently. I can take it out of the business and put it in another investment, like, I don't know, stocks or another business, or I can just pay it myself and spend it. Having that kind of set gross and net profit goal has been quite helpful to like managing operations and understanding, all right, we have this 40% at the end of the year. This is our growth target for this year. This is my personal target. Here's how I'm going to kind of achieve both, or achieve one and set aside the other. In terms of the operations, I think it's resulted in a much lower overhead. So not having a physical office, having a team who are based in different countries working from home themselves, it's created some challenges, of course. So like building in-person relationships with clients, getting out to a lot of conferences, those things definitely lack. And in this model of business, like that hinders growth undeniably. On the flip side, I think for team retention, employee satisfaction and recruitment, it makes it a lot easier than it would be if we were a much more kind of in-office pressure cooker environment. So there's pros and cons, of course.
Yep.
Finally, personal one. I think at the end of the year, I would take more days off, of course, than most business owners. But it's never a massive amount. It's never like 6 months at a time. But I wouldn't sweat about taking a Friday or Monday off. As you know, I live in Mexico. My wife's from here, but I've been here for a few years on and off. I think being able to travel is facilitated by having this model. Not for everyone, but for me it works.
That's great. I love it. And jumping into a topic that I think is definitely top of mind for a lot of the listeners, let's talk about what are some of the strategies and tactics that you're seeing work when it comes to nurse recruitment marketing. I know that is something that everybody's trying to figure out how to attract more nurses, how to get away from job boards. What's working? What are you seeing in the market right now?
So the first one that springs to mind is breaking free of the constraints of brand, getting marketing on board. So those are two things that kind of weigh against each other, but I think you have to get both of them right to be effective nurse recruitment. So obviously there's Indeed job boards, and everyone puts a job on Indeed. Everyone's using it, and that's fair enough. There's ways you can optimize your jobs, like you can use a programmatic provider, you can write better job ads. All of those things help. But at the end of the day, you're still fishing in the same puddle. Oh, not puddle, sorry. Indeed's the biggest job in the world. The same sea for candidates. What I suggest to people is that you need to be going outside of Indeed, getting to people where they spend time when they're not looking for jobs, which is most of their time. So that includes social media, includes non-social media websites, time spent online in general, and then just kind of physical advertisements. And I'm actually doing a webinar on this. It'll probably be out by the time this comes out. It's on SSM Health, which are based in the Midwest, I believe. And what they do is they seem to have created a strong bond between their recruitment team or the recruitment mission and the marketing team. They have a YouTube channel called SSM Health Jobs, and they just post fun kind of 20 to 60-second clips of their staff at work, but also at play at the same time.
Yep.
So there's one video that's racked up 3 million views. There's one that's racked up 2 million views, and collectively they have 9 million views in all their short videos. It's funny because if you go over onto the normal videos tab of YouTube, you see the more standard operation that healthcare providers have, which is kind of corporate style video, heavily edited. You have leadership speaking, everyone saying how much they love the place. They have like hundreds of views. Flip over, they have millions of views on what's called user generated content, which is people being relatable, having fun, really showing what it's like to actually work at the location. That is only possible, I believe, because their marketing team are on board with it. Too often we see providers constrained by having to be tightly on brand, like appeal to brand guidelines for a function that people don't really relate to if it is on brand in the same way where they could if it was relatable. So it's about showing behind the scenes. Not just pumping out content that looks like it's being done by an external videography firm and really polished, and finding ways to say, here's our brand guidelines, but also here's the type of messaging that people relate to that is maybe a bit fun, maybe a bit different, and can actually catch nurses' attention, because so many people trying to recruit the same nurse, their attention's being pulled various ways. To break through the noise, you do have to be different. So that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And having run marketing for so many different companies over the years, it's really funny when everybody's like, "Oh, we want to get all this attention. We want to go viral. We want to get and then you start talking about, well, what does that mean? And it rarely means doing what they've been doing or sticking within the brand guidelines. So when you're working with organizations, how do you, especially with hospital systems, how are you approaching that? Because I feel like hospital systems as a whole are less likely to be willing to break free of that or to allow for free reign kind of traditional influencer marketing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's difficult, especially if you're in a corporate system with lots of layers of decision making. So there's trying to challenge that politically through the organization. And then there's going around it, bypassing it. So for one client right now, we are bypassing by doing an unbranded campaign. So we've made a new social media page. Let's say the client is in New Jersey. Okay, so it's called ICU Nurse Jobs New Jersey. And we're trying to get nurses to relocate from across the country into New Jersey. We're making our content related to what it's like to live in that area, the pros, the cons, like talking about what the winter's like, what the summer's like, attracting nurses from California who want to be near New York, attracting nurses from Florida who don't want to sweat so much in the summer. Like, how do you communicate that in a fun and interesting way? And by being unbranded, we've been given kind of free rein by the client to output the type of content that we think works.
Yep.
And for that client, it's going pretty well. So that's one. Another one to go around it is working with external advertisers like influencers. So generally, I think marketing teams are more willing if it's an influencer who has like an established identity, who can explain through my identity this works. There's not really a way to get like the TikToker to be, dressed in your logo or on brand in your brand voice. So by saying like through this, there's no other way. And then there's the internal part, just explaining to leadership and showing them the numbers. And you'd be surprised that a lot of recruitment or HR teams, they haven't actually reached out to marketing and say, like, can we have a meeting about how we can do better recruitment marketing? We'd love your buy-in and we'd love for you to help us with this. But for the marketing teams, it's about holding on to what they own and not giving up control. Yeah. And you really need to bring them in. It's not about I'm doing this with marketing, but I'm bringing marketing into recruitment and we're both doing it together. So you have to be thoughtful about how you get buy-in in order to listen at the brand a bit and then also hear from them how they think that the brand could be used and could be useful. And they'll probably give you some new ideas as well because most recruitment teams aren't well versed in marketing.
So when you're working with hospitals on how to do this, you're kind of getting to know the brand, getting to know the audience, where the audience sits, kind of the traditional, some of the traditional marketing elements. What are any unique things or approaches that you think would be relevant for staffing agency owners that are trying to kind of unlock their marketing strategy? I know you're probably sharing on your webinar, but is there anything that you kind of tease in terms of best practices?
Yeah. So to be clear, for staffing agency owners to get nurses to apply to their travel nurse openings, for example.
Yeah.
I think it's about doing market research and listening to what nurses are talking about and then adopting their voice in their topics. So I spend some time on nurse subreddits. So Reddit is like a forum website. You go on just search Reddit travel nursing or Reddit nursing. You'll see a large community of nurses that are posting about their problems and their pain points each day. So there's one, it's called r/nursing. It's got 1 million members, which are all nurses. I have posts on there once a week with bringing news and stories on staffing. There was one, the CNO of a hospital got a 24 million payout for being silenced around raising concerns about staffing facilities. And like from the comments there, I can really read what nurses care about today and how they feel on certain issues. I think once you get your finger on the pulse, you can bring that to a wider audience, like becoming a thought leader that brings news to nurses, but also the opinions of your team. And then just maximizing relatability to the nurses that you're trying to engage. Like so many staffing agencies are offering quite an identical service of picking up a contract with that agency and then you go and you work at the hospital, and just adding a layer of knowing what that is like, that experience for the nurse to not only apply to you but then work at the hospital. I think it shows that you know them and you're part of them almost, and that's how you get kind of that stickiness and that loyalty.
Yeah, that's great. That makes a ton of sense. I've also spent some time on that. Reddit's such a great place to just explore and kind of get the feel of what people are thinking and how people are feeling about different industries. There's one on the recruitment market, recruiting industry as well. I think it's called Recruiting Hell. That is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting to listen to.
To highlight, sorry, that it's very weighted towards young people and weighted towards people who are more liberal politically, if that matters for you or your company or your hospital. Well, for anything, any data set, you need to take into account what the people on it think. So yeah, just be aware of what its user base is before you start using it for like data analysis purposes.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense because it's definitely leans one direction, which is it's got some great content, great insights in there, and I think it's that's a good idea for understanding what people are saying about the market. One of the things that I know you and I had talked about is you got your podcast. What has been the impact of having your own podcast? What are some of the topics that you guys go over on the Nurse Recruitment Secrets?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the topics are really formulated around the idea of creating a podcast or a webinar series that advises in-house healthcare recruitment teams and staffing agencies how to recruit nurses better. So we've covered everything from how to write a better job ad, like case studies of different hospital systems, how they're saving money, how they're cutting temporary staff or increasing temporary staff, how they're cutting permanent staff or increasing permanent staff. There was one, Peace Health, in Oregon and Washington. Their vice president of acquisition told us about how they cut costs. I think it was they saved $14 million through some cost-cutting measures. So that kind of content where it's really highlighting stories of organizations that are doing nurse recruitment well, and occasionally bringing in thought leaders on kind of topics that people know are important but don't know a lot about. So we had someone in from, I'm going to butcher this acronym, but CFSGN, I think, which accredit international nurses. And he was talking about back then, he was talking about a visa freeze, waiting lists from certain countries, and it's really enlightening. So you can really go through the podcast and Nurse Recruitment Secrets on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and just look at old episodes, and there'll probably be a topic that will help you if you're a nurse recruitment.
Love it. Where do you see, I mean, the industry's been changing quite a bit. The last 5 years in healthcare staffing and nurse recruiting there's been drastic shifts from the COVID days to the MSP world that we live in now. What are some of the trends that you see? What do you see the next kind of like 1 to 3 years looking like in nurse recruiting?
I've got into it just before COVID.
Yep.
And as we all know, billions extra pumped into nurse recruitment, more so on nurse temporary staffing around that period. So traveling nursing companies, boomed. And I went to this staffing industry analyst healthcare conference in 2021. And it was a berserk, in crazy. The casino. I didn't really go to the casino. I didn't have a lot of money to spend, but everyone was thinking that that's going to last forever. And there was a lot of kind of jubilant, buoyant energy. 2 years later, I went back, and the mood had changed quite a lot.
Sure has.
Things are different.
Sure.
And I was the fool. I actually bought some stock, not a lot, in AMN Healthcare after that 2021 conference, because I was one of those people that thought it would last forever. And if you look at their stock now, it's down 90%, I think, or 80%. So Anyway, where we are now, I think it is kind of still that kind of like correction energy where the profit margin got so suppressed during COVID because of the expansion of travel nursing and other things, obviously, and inflation. But when they look at staffing now, it is about how do they do a bit more in-house? How do they retain staff better? And generally, how can they manage this towards profitability? So the way I see nurse recruitment in the future, we know the nursing shortage is going to continue to exist. Immigration isn't going to fix it, particularly with like recent administration changes. The blockage in the education system seems to be persistent. So last year, 81,000 applicants to nursing courses were turned away.
Wow.
The big block, yeah. And that included several thousand master's and doctorate students who would be appropriate to be educators. And the big block is in the educator pipeline. Get paid 30% less to teach isn't that attractive for a lot of nurses in this economy. So those core factors are still going to persist. Obviously, there's some states that are going to have alleviate their shortage, and there's some states it's going to get worse, like California. So, in terms of what I see, if I get my crystal ball out, it's going to be important for organizations still to recruit nurses. They're going to want to do it in a cost-efficient way. When you look at changes to Medicaid, coming up with the new bill from President Trump, and you look at the kind of the competitive nature of a lot of facilities. What I would say is, though, I've seen more of a consolidation in the market of recruiting and staffing providers. A lot of the recruitment marketing space, at least, have converted into being more of like a tech platform approach. There was TMP was the biggest one. They rebranded to Radency. There's a few others that have done something similar. And I think we're seeing at least clients do want more of a tech-focused cost-cutting solution. So I think it's up to staffing agencies and recruitment providers to consider how we can bring in tech tools. They don't have to reposition ourselves to become a technology company, but really stay on top of what's out there and how can we use it to differentiate ourselves. Like you and I were talking about AI tools. We've been working on lovable.dev, which is a site essentially where you put in a prompt like ChatGPT and it can make you a web page. Creating individual versions of that for individual jobs, for example, or even just individual roles in organizations. It can create kind of a new offering for us when it comes to selling as well. Like we can make a sales page directly focused to a particular client and their needs just with 1 or 2 prompts in 5 minutes. So like we as vendors are still really important. And what we need to do is listen to our clients and adapt our services to meet their own changing needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're out in the vibe coding world, and so am I. It's such a so fun the AI world and what we can create. And completely agree with when it comes to listening to clients. It sounds like future is going to be tech oriented, and there's a lot of changes coming our way. With that, we're going to jump to the speed round. So I've got a couple last questions for you, and then we'll do some closing comments. What are the book or books that you've given most as a gift or that have been most influential in your life?
Okay. Wasn't expecting that one. I asked this to people during interviews because I want to see that they have actually read a book before. And if they don't know what to say, then...
I ask it out of personal gain because I'm a heavy reader and I always like knowing what's out there, what are people learning from.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm a Christian. I haven't read the Bible cover to cover before, and I've started doing it. So I would say the Bible first and foremost. It's quite enlightening to learn about that. When it comes to business, the first business book I can remember reading was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Oh yeah,
and that kind of relates back to the start
it's
of
influential for me
thing,
too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, his thing is about the 4-hour work week is kind of a salesy title about having many vacations from the company that you own. So putting someone else in charge and then being able to, he would I think do like jujitsu and just travel and such. My life hasn't turned out exactly like that. I live in the same place, and I think for most people they take the ethos of that and merge it around their own life and business. But I think that opened just a new horizon for me, because growing up, everyone I knew who was an adult was working a full-time job, and I didn't have that perception of business owner didn't equal being in it full-time all the time. So that was an interesting one. At the moment, I'm rereading Peter Thiel's 0 to 1.
Great book.
Yeah, it's very kind of popular, and people always refer back to it. It's just one of the principles of how can you start a business that, now he's all about creating a monopoly, but like provides something new and different, and is so good that it's unmatchable. And I think that ambition, I think, has been quite. Each time I read it, it fills me with a new energy and kind of new ideas about what I need to do and what maybe I'm doing wrong at the moment. There's the final one I'll tell you about. I haven't read it in a while, so I kind of have to remember the title. But there's a book called Good to Great, which is quite successful in business consulting. But SIA, Staffing Industry Analysts, is it? I don't know his first name, Mr. Aspen. Whoever the kind of CEO, president of him and a consultant released a book, but it was for staffing, and it was talking about like the biggest staffing companies and how they grew, and like the 5 points that each staffing company needs to have in order to be scalable to that kind of 100 million revenue and above. So I haven't read it in a while, but I think he's Barry Aspen. Perhaps you can look it up and find that one out too.
That's great. Great recommendations. I second all of those. Or the majority of them are in my wheelhouse, the business side of it. The last question I've got for you is, what major habit has changed in the last 3 to 5 years that has had the biggest impact on your life?
It's very simple, but really placing value on going outside, not sitting down all day.
Yeah.
Because
that's great. Great answer.
Yeah. Like, think of it like you're in this, like the schooling condition, the schooling system conditions you in a lot of way. You're kind of accustomed to sitting down for 30 minutes, an hour, and then you stand up and you go to the next class. In my school, at least, we didn't really go outside a lot unless we had the breaks. Maybe because I was in Northern Ireland where it was raining all the time. So like that, the kind of corridor, it was just, move to the next class and then go outside during your break. I find like if I'm not kind of experiencing the outside, then whenever I'm inside working, I can't be as productive. And just whenever I feel like it, getting up and walking outside and like bringing a pen and paper has been quite big for me. It helps me get like a new surrounding for whatever idea I'm trying to figure out at the time. And you bump into people and you realize kind of an appreciation for the real world. I must say, I don't like staring at a computer all day, which is what I mostly do. So that's kind of my crutch to try and remain human, going outside whenever I feel like I have the urge to do it.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And any closing comments for the audience?
Yeah, I mean, if your agency's struggling at the moment, a lot of staffing agencies are. It's not the easiest market to work in. Don't despair. Recognize the clients that you have and the value that you provide to them, and find meaning and purpose of that, and your candidates and staff too. And then reflect back on how you felt whenever you were growing and things are going great. Like, that you can get that feeling again. You just need to adapt. The needs of organizations are changing, and try and stay on top of your clients' top of mind, so to speak. Engage with them, ask them what they're doing, what their problems are, and always be adapting your service, even if that means doing something different. We opened up a completely different area the last year in government contracting. So it started out with a nurse recruitment contract, which is pretty adjacent, but then we expanded it to doing like marketing for organizations serving people with intellectual development disabilities, promoting Colorado State's telehealth program. And that's just kind of stripping off this element of our business, which was marketing, from the kind of bigger piece of recruitment. So staffing agencies are so dynamic that we have so many kind of portions to our businesses that are valuable in themselves, be it the sales component, the recruiter element, marketing element, even the HR element, that if it's not working, don't be close-minded and think, I have to be doing staffing and have 100 people out there working today. Think about different revenue streams, go outside. Yeah, just kind of be open to how your staffing company and staffing in general needs to change to adapt to this market, and don't just keep it rigid from what it was in the past.
Great advice. Well, Adam, I really appreciate having you on the show. Some great insights into recruitment marketing. If you guys don't listen to his podcast, check it out. And thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Staffing Show. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at staffinghub.com to